Okay, in this grammar video, we are going to learn the very basics in sentence diagramming. To start with, let's talk about what makes a sentence. Every sentence has two parts, a noun and a verb. The example sentence we're going to use here is Pete runs. When we diagram a sentence, before we actually draw our diagram, it's good to look at the sentence and identify what the different parts of speech are. The first step always is to draw a line between our noun phrase and our verb phrase. If you remember, a noun is a person, place, or thing. Those are all concrete nouns, or nouns that you could touch and see. Or there are also abstract nouns, such as ideas and feelings. Emotions like happy, sad, feelings like love, anger, those are abstract nouns, but they are still nouns. Verbs are action words. So in this sentence, Pete is a person, that's our noun, and runs is our verb, that's the action that Pete is performing. So in every sentence, again, there's a noun and a verb, and the noun performs the action. The object or the subject of that sentence performs the action. So I said that we draw a line between the noun phrase and the verb phrase. The reason I said we draw a line between the noun phrase and the verb phrase and not the noun and verb is in some sentences we have more than one noun, and in some sentences we have more than one word in the noun phrase or more than one word in the verb phrase. For example, we could say the hairy man laughed loudly. In this sentence, again, I said that the first thing we want to do is draw a line between the noun phrase and the verb phrase. In order to do that, we find the verb. So let's up here actually circle the verb. Maybe that's the very first step, is we circle the verb of the sentence. Every sentence has that one verb that the sentence relies on, that forms the center of the sentence. And I'll show you later how that works. So in this sentence, what's the action that's being performed? Well, the hairy man is laughing. So let's circle the word laughed. That is our verb. And then once you find that, in most cases, that verb starts out the verb phrase. So we could draw the line right before the verb. Sometimes you might have an adverb before that, but generally your verb comes right after or starts out the verb phrase. So now we know that everything on this side of the line is our noun phrase, and everything on this side of the line is our verb phrase. Okay? Remember that in a sentence, you can have more than just one noun and one verb, and that a noun phrase is sometimes made up of more than just one word. For example, in this sentence, let's go ahead and underline our nouns. We only have one noun in this sentence, one object or person or place, and that is man. These other words are accessories or help tell us more about man. Which man? It is the man. What's the man like? Well, he's hairy. Hairy is an adjective. Thus is what we call a determiner. We'll talk more about that later. And then on this side, on our verb phrase, we have more than one word. We have our verb, and then we have the word loudly. Loudly tells us how he laughed. and so it's what we call an adverb. So remember, again, in our noun phrase we might have more than one word. In our verb phrase we might have more than one word. So let's go ahead and look at how to diagram this first sentence that we wrote out. Pete runs. Let's quickly finish marking the parts of speech. So we've got our verb. We put our line between the noun phrase and the verb phrase. Now our noun, we underline the noun, is Pete. So now let's actually diagram the sentence. To diagram the sentence, we use what is called a tree diagram. At the top of the tree is always an S. S stands for sentence. No matter what we're doing, always start with an S at the top. Your S, at a minimum, will have two branches. And the two branches are the two parts of the sentence. In this sentence, what are they? And in every sentence, I guess, what are they? It's a noun phrase and a verb phrase. Okay. Now in this sentence we only have two words, so you might be tempted to do this when you're diagramming the sentence, and don't do this. You might be tempted to write noun and verb, and then write Pete runs. Don't do this. We need to get into the habit of writing noun phrase and verb phrase, because in most sentences your noun phrase and verb phrase will have more than one word. So noun phrase and verb phrase. Then we draw a line down from them and we write noun, because in our noun phrase we have a noun, and that is Pete. And in our verb phrase we have a verb, and that is runs. Okay, look at this diagram carefully. Get a good idea of what this looks like, because in just a minute I am going to give you an example sentence. It'll be the same structure, and I want you to diagram it. So take a good look at that. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and use a different sentence. Let's say dogs bark. So go ahead and first of all mark the parts of speech. So I'm going to walk you through this, and then I'll actually do it for you. So draw a line between your noun phrase and your verb phrase. And remember, it might be helpful to identify your verb first. So write this on a piece of paper. Make sure you have a piece of paper, and go ahead and draw a line between the noun phrase and the verb phrase. Okay, you should have drawn a line right here. Bark is our verb, and that starts off our verb phrase, so we draw a line right there. Now let's circle our verb. We already know what our verb is, bark. And then do you remember what we do to our noun? If you do, go ahead and mark it. Okay, you should have underlined your noun. Okay, now go ahead and start. I'm gonna give you a chance to go ahead and draw a tree diagram. Remember to start with sentence at the top. And go ahead and take a minute. Pause the video if you need to take a minute and try to draw out the sentence diagram. Okay, let me walk you through it now. At the top we have S for sentence, remember. Then we have two branches, our noun phrase and verb phrase. So you should have put NP for noun phrase and VP for verb phrase. Then underneath NP you should have put N for noun and dogs. Under verb phrase you should have put V for verb and then bark. Now, when we get to this bottom level, it is not important that your first word in this sentence is capitalized. I just did that just because. And it's not important to include any punctuation. In fact, that punctuation may make things confusing, so don't worry about that. There's our tree diagram. You have successfully diagrammed your first sentence. I have in your lesson on Canvas, you should find a PDF with 5 sentences in this, or 4 sentences in the same structure. You will go ahead and mark them like we marked this. You will draw a tree diagram, and then for the 5th sentence, I have left it blank for you to draw your own, write your own sentence in the same form and diagram it.